Okay, cool.
Okay,
and you
guys.
can see me okay?
Sorry.
I was just checking that you can see me all right. I'm all good. And you can hear me? Because I know the...
Okay, guys, well, we are here today and we have such a special guest for you. Oh my goodness, I cannot believe I'm actually speaking to Trevor Etienne, who is a massive Hollywood star, and he's speaking to us all the way from LA. I mean, this is so surreal, Trev. You know, it's wonderful to have you. It's so good to have you here and to be able to speak to you. We're in little sunny Devon and you're out there in sunny LA. How are you doing, mate? How are you doing, Trevor?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm doing good with all the madness of the lockdown and everything. I'm doing all right. Yeah, it's good. It's all good.
Good. This is good. Well, for a lot of people who perhaps don't know, I mean, Trevor, obviously, Trev, you've been you're in the current Netflix series of Bosch 6. You've been in Pirates of the Caribbean.
It's actually Amazon. Just
it's Amazon.
Get it right. It's
Sorry, Amazon. Yeah, Amazon, Bosch, and Pirates of the Caribbean, Terminator, Resurrection, Bad Boys. I mean, you've done masses of theatre. You played Macbeth at the National Theatre. You've worked with people like Steven Spielberg, Stanley Kubrick, Eyes Wide Shut. I mean, oh my goodness, the list is massive. And yet, Trevor, what is so lovely is that you have a connection with our group in that the lovely Catherine Clark Kay, who we know her as Kay, she was in a theatre company with you back in the day, back in Brixton when you started. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you got started and how you met Kay and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, well, thank you, first of all, Martin, for having me. And hello to all the Unleashed members. I've seen your promo video that Martin sent me, and I think it's great. I think you're all very talented, and I wish you well in this very challenging time. I know we're all kind of under it right now, but just stay strong and stay creative if you can. That's what I'm telling to everyone, all my friends, just stay creative and try to visualize the future that you want, you know, because I know this is very trying on a lot of people. But in answer to your question, so I started off doing a lot of youth theatre originally years ago, and then I actually set up a theatre company with a guy called Larrington Walker, a wonderful man who passed recently. And we set up a theatre company called Afro Sax that was in Tulse Hill in Brixton. And we're basically kind of doing the kind of work that you're doing with Unleash Mind, where we're getting people in from the community and not professionals, just people that had a love of the art and drama and wanted to try stuff. And we basically created workshops that allowed them to develop their skills. And from what they did in the workshops, we then scripted plays around their improvised work, and we then toured and we did musicals and we did operas, we did short films. And Kay, God bless her, was part of that when we first set it up back in the mid-80s, I think it was, mid-80s, mid to late 90s, 80s. And we did a musical with Kay called Busy in the City, which was something that Larrington had written and that we'd all kind of devised and written songs around it. And Kay played Maggie Thatcher, and she did a wonderful job. And we basically got all kinds of young people in from everywhere, all over London. And we became quite well known for these amazing, talented group of people that we had and doing this amazing work with them. And it was something that I still hold dear to my heart. It's a great memory. And yeah, when I saw your Unleash video, I just thought, oh, wow, this is a similar kind of connection with trying to give people an artistic, creative opportunity to unleash some of their own potential. So that's why I'm thinking it's just a wonderful thing, what you're doing, Martin, with the group. It really is.
Well, bless you, mate. I tell you, it's a real encouragement to have someone like yourself, because we had a chat, I know, last week, and we were talking about how you end up going to America. And I think one of the sad things that I picked up was you said that for a young black man in London, it was really hard for you to make it, and actually you found it easier when you went to America. Do you want to just elaborate on that? Because I mean, obviously we are, you know, what we do is about, you know, sort of helping people who are perhaps in minorities or perhaps, you know, in groups that are perhaps, you know, struggle. So do you want to just tell us how you made it so big? Because my gosh, you didn't have to hit the big time.
Well, I mean, I suppose the word big is all relative, really, compared to what some people have achieved. But yes, thank you very much for your compliments, Martin. Well, it just got very difficult, really, for an actor like myself to get the kind of opportunities that I wanted to get kind of growing as an artist. And not that America is that less easy, really, because it has its challenges as well. But because it's a bigger place, there's just more people. So there's more space to try things, and there's more money to try things. I think things have changed slightly in the UK for actors of color, and in Europe as well. I think we've still got a long way to go, but I have seen changes since I've been out here. So, you know, it just became like I wanted to try and continue the work that we were doing with Afro Sax. And when they cut the Arts Council funding, that kind of, we struggled for a long time to try and get funding to try and find a new building. So we moved from South London to West London, and we were in Acton, and then we were in Chiswick. And then we kind of toured around for a while in West London, who were the only borough willing to support the kind of work that we were doing with the group. And the group was very multiracial, and we had all kinds of people. We had people who had come out of, you know, prison, or people who had come out of kind of, you know, challenging situations. And we invited everybody, you know, and that was the good thing about it. So I just got to a point where there were opportunities presenting themselves in the US, and I just thought, well, if I don't open a door and just go and have a look, I'll never know. And that's really kind of how it all kind of transpired. I just thought, let me just go and have a look and see if there's any potential for me to do some stuff out here. And yeah, it just, you know, the doors kind of opened slowly. It wasn't an easy opening, but it did open eventually. And then, you know, I ended up staying here.
Yeah. So how long have you been out in, how long have you been out in LA now, Trev?
Oh, about, I think, on and off, about 14, 15 years now.
Wow. Wow. And you've worked with some...
I was in Canada for a while as well. I was in Canada for a while.
Okay. But you've worked with some amazing people like Steven Spielberg and Stanley Kubrick. You know, have you got any anecdotes of things like that? You know, people you've worked with. And you were in
I never met... Yeah, I did Pirates, yeah. I never met Steven Spielberg. I did a show for his company in Canada, a sci-fi show called Falling Skies, which was a lot of fun. Stanley Kubrick was great. I worked with him on Eyes Wide Shut. He was always quite an amazing guy, very creative, very imaginative. It was really like just watching. I remember saying to Tom Cruise, it's the closest that we're going to get to Orson Welles in a way. Just seeing that kind of auteur, you know, and he was one of the last greats because a lot of them had already passed on by then. But he told me basically that you just have to he told me if you write a story, he said, always stay true to your story. You know, don't let anybody come in and change a story that you want to tell. Because I told him that I was a filmmaker and stuff, and I was writing scripts, and it was very encouraging. And he said, you know, just tell the story that you want to tell. Always tell that story. Don't let anyone come in and change it because they have opinions, or if it's your story, it should be your way of telling it. And that stuck with me.
Yeah. That sounds amazing. The other thing I was reading in your resume, Trev, was that also you've written and produced quite a few films yourself, and you've done one about homelessness in LA. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that project? Yeah,
that was that came about. I work with a charity called Penny Lane, and what Penny Lane do is they basically get young people, adopted children, babies, kids that really haven't started well in life. They've helped them find a family, and then they basically help kids who have been under substance abuse or who have been homeless. And we've been, myself and another actor called Vince Lozano, we've been kind of supporting Penny Lane for the last few years. They found us after we did Pirates of the Caribbean, and then we both kind of just fell in love with what they were doing and just wanted to support them in any way that we could. So they asked us if we put together a little kind of promo documentary for one of their fundraisers. So we put a little film together about homelessness in LA, and it was really interesting, you know, just looking at, because when you do the research and you start looking around and seeing that homelessness is really something that affects every city in the world, you know, and it's about the disenchanted, the unwanted, the disenfranchised, you know, the people who are suffering in some way from abuse or mental illness, and how they all end up on the streets in a similar way, you know, either abandonment or rejection, or something's happened that's allowed them to live in this way, you know, and they're not always to blame.
No,
I think
no,
people
never.
point the finger at them, you know, and think, oh, look at them, they're not doing anything. But I have a lot of compassion, and I have a lot of time for people who have gone through that experience, because I know what it's like to be homeless, and I've been homeless, so I know how it feels when you're trying to, you know, live in that kind of weird zone and trying to climb your way out of it. It's a tough gig, and for people who are suffering with mental illness, or they're on meds, or they have some kind of you know, addiction, you know, some countries do better than others, but I think on the whole, there seems to be a kind of lack of funding, or lack of understanding, or lack of compassion, and empathy, you know, for people in that situation, and a lot of judgment. And so we did a little kind of short documentary that was just basically showing how people get in this situation, and to try and get the people who are at the event to kind of dig in their deeper pockets and put a little cash on the table and support this wonderful charity, Penny Lane, who do wonderful things. They adopt children, and they find adoptive parents, for children who have been you know, abandoned for whatever reason. So so we did that, and you know, sorry.
That sounds amazing. That does sound amazing. Really does sound amazing. I mean, I know particularly when you were talking about, you know, what you've seen we've done, that, you know, you had a special connection in a way because of the sort of work you've done. I mean, and weirdly, last week we did a whole thing for VE Day, and we talked about forgiveness. And I noticed in your CV as well that also you've been working on a documentary about Bishop Desmond Tutu, particularly in the area of forgiveness. Do you want to just expand a little bit about what that project was about?
Yeah, well, that's an ongoing project. I'm just one of the co-producers on it, but it was produced and directed by a wonderful filmmaker called Karen, and she's been basically following Desmond Tutu around for the last couple of years, 2 decades really, doing amazing interviews and collating information. And I've been helping her with some fundraising and putting some stuff together. And it's a really interesting documentary about how Desmond Tutu found a way to use the idea of forgiveness to promote peace and to promote unity, and a word that they use in South Africa called Ubuntu, which is kind of bringing love and community together, you know. You know, I feel like in the kind of world that we're living in right now, especially in these challenging times, it's very hard to find forgiveness because there's lots of anger out there, you know. Rightly so, I think, in some cases. But there has to be some compassion. And I think we've kind of lost that a little with our society. You know, we've become, especially with this new millennial society, I think, you know, with the advent of phones and computers, they've lost some of that human connection that I had growing up, you know, my generation, your generation, Ryan, you know, where there was more emphasis on human contact than there was on, you know, having to put everything through a device. And now they've been growing up in a world where everything they do is through a device, it's through a phone or through a laptop or a tablet. And the idea of forgiveness is really just really to ask people to remember. It's asking people to really look at why they do things and to find the compassion in themselves, where they can look at that person in the mirror and they can find something that has some meaning. And if you can forgive yourself for doing something, then you can forgive somebody else as well. I know there are some things that are unforgivable and they're heinous, and everything takes time. But I do believe that with time and with healing and with the right kind of attention and the right kind of support, you can let go of the pain. And in that letting go, you find forgiveness. So it's not something that happens overnight. And obviously some people die never forgiving, and that's just the way it is with some stories. But I think if you're aware that you have the compassion in yourself to find forgiveness, as Desmond Tutu did, then I think that you can find a way to find solace and peace. And that's what the film is really about, how you find unity and peace through forgiveness. So Karen is a wonderful filmmaker, and we're still raising money to try and finish it. But I feel like it's going to be finished soon, because I just think it's quite relevant to our now times, what's happening
totally.
now.
It sounds an amazing project. It really does. So with Trevor, I mean, obviously you've had an incredibly varied career. I mean, look, you've done a lot of theatre. I mean, really fantastic theatre at the National Theatre. I mean, you played Macbeth. We did a Shakespeare special about 3 weeks ago when it was Shakespeare's birthday. But you've done a fair old bit of Shakespeare, and you actually played the title role at the National Theatre. I mean, that must have been such an incredible experience. What was it like?
Well, it was a long time ago, but it was amazing, actually. We worked with a wonderful director called Peter Gill, who was just a joy to work with. And it was a challenge for all the actors, but it was just, I don't know, when you step into a role like that, and you're kind of playing a psychopath, I mean, you're playing someone who's premeditated, who's dark, who's constantly thinking about the self. And in a way, it kind of echoes the narcissistic kind of psychopath type environment that we live in these modern times as well, So it was a challenge, but it was a lot of fun. And anyone who gets the opportunity to do Shakespeare, I'm really glad that you're actually bringing Shakespeare into the group's creativity, because I just think it's a way to expand your talents and your creativity. And it just, it gives you a sense that nothing really changes, that everything is relevant, that everything that he wrote all those hundreds of years ago is still relevant now. That
totally.
the
Same issues,
human condition and the human psyche, and the things that we value as important are the same things, absolutely same things. We as a human species haven't really evolved in that sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird actually, Trevor, talking to you, because you I don't know, you quite often get cast as the villain, don't you?
Yes, I do.
I mean,
yes,
the part you're playing at the moment in Bosch, I mean, he's not a particularly nice character, is he?
No, and it was funny, I was saying to a friend the other day that I haven't really played a psychopath since Macbeth, so it's quite a jump. But I mean, playing the bad guys are always more fun, I think,
Yeah.
and I tend to play a lot of bad
parts,
guys.
aren't they?
Yeah, and you can play around a bit more and do more with that, I think. But yeah, I mean, I do tend to get cast a lot of the time as the kind of as the bad boy.
Yeah. So our guys, I mean, obviously they've never done, they've done no film work at all, but we've done actually quite a bit of theatre work. We've written quite a bit of stuff, and they've done quite a bit of live theatre, and actually sort of with a live audience. What I think would be a really interesting question was, what would you say was the big difference between acting in the theatre, where you've got to reach to the back of the stalls, and actually working in film and TV, because it's a very different style of acting, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think there is a different style, absolutely, but I think there is a kind of common thread through it, which is that in either scenario, you are still the same artist trying to find the truth. So whether you find the truth on the stage of what you're doing, what you're playing, and who your character is in the story, or you play the truth of that on screen, I think the essence of that is the same. The technique of it is different, because you're not speaking to an audience on a stage, you're speaking to a camera that changes lenses, and the lenses make you bigger or smaller depending on what the shot is, etc. So there is you have to kind of contract your performance more on film and make it slightly smaller, and trust minimum, and that is more about working from within and letting the eyes and the behavior demonstrate what the character's truth is. Whereas I think on the stage, because it's a bigger space, you've got the room to physicalize more and to verbalize more what you're doing. So that becomes slightly bigger, and based on what style, if it's pantomime or circus or a musical or a dance number or whatever it is that's required of you, you fit whatever size palette you need for that performance. But so the styles and the techniques are different, but I think the essence of locating the truth of what you're doing and playing the truth of what you're doing, I think that is basically the same, because it's the same you, it's the same individual. So if you're playing a happy person or a sad person or a person conflicted or confused, you still have to go inside yourself and find the truth of that and then demonstrate it so that the audience connect with it and they feel that truth as well. Because that's really, it's all about the truth. It's all about the truth.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it sounds like you're a very, very busy man, and you've done an awful lot. Do you have a particular, is there a particular part that you have a very soft affection for, that you've played in the past? Is there a particular role that you look back and think, I mean, I know that, I've done loads of stuff and I feel, I mean, nothing professional like yourself, but, there are certain roles that stick out in your career where you think, oh, that's such a great time, and I really love playing that part. I mean, is that the same with you?
Yeah, I guess I've got some favorites. It's kind of hard because each one is a new experience, and because I welcome new experiences, I always, be them big or small, I always enjoy the process. I think if I had to choose one, I did a series for ITV called The Last Train, and that was a kind of post-apocalyptic series with a wonderful cast: Nicola Walker, the great Nicola Walker, James Hazeldine, James Hewson, Chris, Zoe. I mean, just wonderful people. And I played a character who was basically surviving after a post-apocalyptic nightmare on a train that went through a tunnel at the impact of a meteorite hitting the planet. And the train had a scientist on board who had, I think it was, nitrate, some chemical that froze us on the train. And when we defrosted, we were 50 years in the future. And we then had to deal with a new world, and it was all acid rain. It's on YouTube. I think it's on YouTube. It's called The Last Train. And it was a really interesting idea, a really interesting concept. And that I liked. That part I liked, because it was very, we filmed up and down the country. We were in Wales, we were in Liverpool. We did some bits, I think, in London, Manchester. And it was just an interesting part to play because the situation was so unusual. And because you were doing it in England, you were basically had to kind of transport your imagination into this world where the world had ended, basically, and you were looking in England as this post-apocalyptic island, and that was interesting. So I enjoyed that. But equally, I enjoy, working with writers and working with the community. I still work with the communities out here, and I work with Native American communities and theatre companies in Canada. So I still try and keep my hand in, which is why when I was speaking to Kay, and big love to Kay and Holly, bless you both, and she was telling me about what you guys are doing with Unleashed. I really felt immediate connection with what you've been doing, Martin, and the wonderful actors that you've got involved and the creative staff that you have. And I just wanted to show support and understanding, because I know what many of your members have experienced, because I've worked with creative people in that same situation. And I just think you yourself, you need to be commended. Round of applause. You need to be commended for the fact that you created this wonderful space for these wonderful people to inhabit. That's not an easy thing to do. And the commitment that must take, and the patience that must take to convince people that this is a valid exercise is commendable. So I mean, thank you for your comments on things that I've done, but I certainly want to return that back to you and say that if it wasn't for creative people like you who give people who are less fortunate a creative opportunity, theatre companies like yours wouldn't exist. And I really think that what you're doing should get an opportunity to tour. It should get an opportunity to be seen by a wider audience of people, and some funding, hopefully after this thing, whatever you want to call it, is over, so that you guys can actually share the work with more people, and maybe encourage other people in other areas around the UK to start looking at their communities and developing stuff like Unleashed, because we don't have that anymore. And I think that's part of the reason why the problems that we're seeing now with the young, all the social problems with the young kids now, they don't have that opportunity to join a group and be in a community and be creative. So they're running around idle doing criminal things that they wouldn't otherwise do if there was another option,
Well, bless you, Trevor. I really appreciate your support, and I know you very kindly said that, after all this madness is over, and you're possibly working in the UK, that you might come down and see us and lead some workshops. And God, I tell you,
I'd love to.
man, we would be so chuffed to have you, and to entertain you, and to sort of have you here for a few days, and to come and meet all the guys, and really.
Well, I promised Kay that I would definitely come in for a cup of tea, and I'd meet Holly. So I'm already committed to that.
This is great. Well,
she said she put the kettle on. So
yeah.
I have to come now.
Yeah, Trevor, we're going to have to wind it up, I'm afraid. But listen, Brent, I really, really appreciate your time. And, I know you want to keep in touch with us and just keep up to date with what we're doing. And we will keep you up to date, and we'll chat again and get you on the virtual club again. I mean, I suspect we're probably going to be like this till flipping October. So, it'd be great to keep in touch with, what you're up to and hear more of what you're doing. But can I just say, Trevor, I really do appreciate you giving up your time and speaking to us today. And, it's great to have you here. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Pleasure, Martin, and good luck to you, and my love and blessings to all the Unleashed members. And I never know, sometimes my eyes, I look at myself and I never know where to look when you're doing this kind of Zoom. But I just want to say that I'm wishing all the Unleashed members my best wishes, and just wherever you are, whatever you're doing, just stay positive, and just know that whenever this nightmare is over, that there will be some peace and light at the end of the tunnel. So whatever your challenge is, just know that there are people who do love you, who do support you, and will give you the net that you need so you don't fall.
That's great, mate. Thank you so much. Bless you,
Pleasure.
Trevor, and we'll be
All right,
again. Yeah, God bless you. Take care.
All right, mate. Take care.